Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Imtiaz and the rest of the Guru team for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. My sound has been cutting out a little bit in the last few minutes, so hopefully I don't have any issues, but let me go ahead and share my screen so I can get started. I can get through this. All right, so I guess I'll go ahead and start with a brief intro about what FabFitFun is and my role within the company. So we are a subscription-based service that sends out seasonal themed boxes 4 times a year, full of beauty, wellness, and fitness items. We also hold seasonal sales in between seasons that offer members more of a traditional e-commerce experience. So they can purchase additional items at highly discounted rates. So we're pretty busy throughout the year. I personally work in the customer service department. I'm a part of the learning and development team as a coordinator, and my role specifically is knowledge management. So most of my day is spent maintaining and optimizing the Guru platform, along with other members of my team who are the ones adding most of the content to Guru. And our team has been utilizing the knowledge alert feature since fully transitioning to Guru at the beginning of the year. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about it. So like I said, we've been using this feature since we fully dived into using Guru. And as a fast growing startup with over 200 customer service agents, we really rely on knowledge alerts to notify our team of pertinent information, whether that's a large scale membership change or an unexpected obstacle that we may be faced with in real time. Knowledge alerts are super important for us, especially since a majority of our agents are outsourced and they don't use Slack. We use knowledge alerts to kind of push information to the forefront for them so that they're prepared for any reach out that they may be getting, no matter what the content is. And a practice that we've recently adopted is sending a second knowledge alert for a card. I'm not sure if many teams do this. It's probably maybe a little taboo, but I do have this example on the side to kind of walk you through what that looks like. So the first iteration of this card was letting our agents know that we're accepting PayPal as a billing method for a small percentage of new members. Billing inquiries are one of the main reach outs that we receive. So this is a pretty important update. And the author that made this card decided to send a second knowledge alert when this transition to all of new members will have the option to use PayPal at checkout. So it's just a good example of how a huge update on a card can warrant a second knowledge alert. And it's super important that our team knows that, since billing is a really big portion of the reach outs that we're getting on Zendesk or on social. So we have been doing that lately a lot, which has seemed to be pretty useful. And the lovely team at Guru, shout out to Meg, my account manager that I work with, has set up a Pendo guide for us. And it's basically just a little message that kind of layers on top of the knowledge alerts. And it just lets the team know that knowledge alerts are super important, and the information in them could affect their workflow, whether that's positively or negatively. Positive in the sense that if they read it, they're going to be more informed. Negatively, if they don't read it, they might misinform a member that's reaching out with a question or a concern. And it also lets them know that they have to click I read it to confirm that they've seen it. And this also plays into our reader analytics, which I will dive into a little bit more in the next slide. But these Pendo guides are super helpful for us, just kind of contextualizing for our agents that knowledge alerts are just overall super significant and important to their daily workflow. So just to give you an idea of the frequency in which we're sending knowledge alerts, this is probably on the higher end, going off of kind of what Julia was talking about previously. In the month of May, our team sent approximately 32 knowledge alerts, which averages about 8 a week. And of our 26 authors, about 5 to 7 of them are using this feature consistently. And I included a little screenshot of what my Slack integration looks like. For one of the Mondays in May, we sent 4 in a day, which can seem like a lot, but we're constantly having changes in a given season, updates. Some of these include inventory updates, just FAQs regarding anything that's super pertinent and urgent that we need our reps to know. So if 4 in a day is what we're led to, we kind of just roll with it. And typically we send our knowledge alerts to all members of our guru space rather than just certain groups. This allows for more complete visibility, closes any knowledge gaps there might be, and just make sure that everyone's on the same page. So we found that sending it to all members, at least right now, is super beneficial for us, especially during COVID work from home times. Super important that we're all informed and have the same information. And then reader analytics, that's something that I send out in our weekly Guru newsletter, which I've included a little screenshot here. It goes along with our top 3 Guru cards for the week, top 3 searches without results. So a lot of analytics are included in that newsletter, and including the reader analytics kind of functions in 2 ways. One, it's a call out to any agents that maybe haven't read their knowledge alerts or have a queue building up to go in and read them and get that taken care of. And it also gives visibility for leadership to kind of let them know, like, hey, you know, this knowledge alert was sent out like 6 days ago. 40% of the team has read it. Follow up with your team. See if, you know, maybe there's an issue with people accessing Guru if they're not seeing their knowledge alerts, kind of pinpointing where things might be going wrong, or just letting them know, like, hey, you need to make the time to go in, read these knowledge alerts. It's super important. It's going to affect your daily workflow. So yeah, I think including those is super important. I just put the percentage read, and we're always trying to get that up. So yeah, that's really how we use knowledge alerts here at FabFitFun. We love them.
That is so awesome. Liz, thank you so much for sharing that. And there's a couple of things that jumped out at me for sure during that. And one is that you guys are using Guru for outsourced help, which is really powerful for people that you can't really access all the time, but need to have that really relevant information. So I see in the chat, people are just like fawning over the newsletter, which is so cool.
My baby.
It's so great. And I remember seeing it in the Slack channel, in our shared Slack channel, and being like, oh my God, their trust score is 100%. Like that is pretty awesome. That is like, right.
Thank you.
There was a lot of things that stood out to me, and that was one of them. And, you know, just because we're talking about, you know, how FabFitFun uses it, there's been some really cool testimonials that some of the customer support reps have shared with us via like survey. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but some people have said, like, I couldn't even cope if I didn't have the Guru to work with. And another one said something really great about it would be like, if I didn't have Guru, it would be like being in a room and saying, hey, read this library, but then I couldn't like find a single book. Which I just thought was really awesome. And shout out to Kaylee and the Guru team for sourcing those testimonials for us. But that was really, really amazing. Before we jump into some examples on how maybe we could use knowledge alerts, I want to make sure that we pause for a second and just see if there's any questions that we might have for Liz.
Looks like everyone wants the template. And then it also looks like Rachel has a question. And I can read that unless you want to speak to it, Rachel. Is there a way to set up a sort of training guide for new users / hires rather than having to send out multiple knowledge alerts with the ability for them to checklist them? And I'm not sure if that's for Liz or us at Guru, but I can take a stab at answering that.
Yeah, go for it.
Unless you've thought through that, Liz. So Rachel,
yeah, you can go for it.
To answer your question, in Guru, we have sort of onboarding boards, and we have an all company onboarding, and then depending on your role and your collection, which aligns to a functional role, we'll have a board with, it's not like an Asana sort of task checklist, but oftentimes it has, on your first week, read through these 2-3 cards and then take this assessment to show that you've gone through this knowledge. So maybe we can follow up with you on an example for that. And then that's for how we do it internally. MTAS, I know that you've been working on the academy, and maybe that's something that would be helpful to speak to here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say, Julia. As the academy grows, and if you haven't checked it out, it's just a way to self-serve and self-pace and learn for you and your team. The URL is academy.getguru.com. But right now the courses are all aimed at onboarding, but as it grows, we'll definitely have a little bit, something that might be a little bit more in depth, like knowledge alerts, probably not going to be what you need to know the second you start using Guru, but down the road you will. And so we'll have definitely education surrounding that to walk users through what that looks like. And it'll be relevant for your role, right? So if you're an admin, it'll show you what's happening on the admin side. And if you're a read-only user, it'll show you what that looks like as well. So that will be a resource just down the road. Fortunately, I don't have it right now. Oh, thanks, Julia. I put the link in the chat. And also, speaking of the chat, like you said, Julia, it sounds like people really like that newsletter. And maybe we can catch up with Meg and maybe some of the CX folks here at Guru to think about like what that looks like. Because I can't speak to what that newsletter looks like in a kind of rolled out broadcast way to customers, but we'll look into it and find out, because it is really cool. It is really cool. With that said, here's a couple on this slide. You guys can see my screen, right? Okay. There's a couple different examples of how you could use this. And aside from reading through all of them, I'll let you guys check it out. But you heard a bunch of examples from Julia and Liz, and you're seeing some examples here. And people are at different journeys in how they're using Guru. And some of us on the call may not have ever used knowledge alerts, and some of us might be using them a lot, right? But I would love for right now for you to think about how you have used them, how you might use them, what's getting in the way, looking at these examples. Or if you're like, oh man, after this call, I'm like, oh, I know that I can do this knowledge alert now. I would love to kind of get some of that discussion going, and pardon the construction that's happening next door if you guys can hear that as well. But there's been some really cool ones that we've done in the org-wide sense that Julia talked about. Number 3 in the letter A says company response to current events, with a lot of anti-racism materials coming out and social justice materials that we want to share internally to kind of develop empathy for the Black community. Julia was really instrumental in like setting up knowledge alert and content along with Leah, content to get that broadcasted out to the company. And so she set that up for our CEO, Rick, and then he sent that out to everyone just to kind of like power home how important it was. But that's, a really cool way to get something out there that's really timely. If you have people ops, actions and deadlines for like enrollment purposes, you can use knowledge alerts for that. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. So right now, I know a lot of folks are on mute, and we can't see everyone, and that's okay. But while we have time scheduled until 1:45 Eastern, 10:45 Pacific. While we have a couple minutes here before we wrap up, now is an awesome time for folks to ask questions, get clarification on something that might not have made sense, or maybe share how you might use knowledge alerts. We'd love to open it up.
Hi, this is Siobhan from Hotjar. I find it really interesting that a lot of people seem to be using Guru almost as like a wiki or like a replacement for discourse. And like, I don't know if anyone's familiar with discourse, but sort of like just an internal forum. But one of the main things is that it's really hard to just like set up a feed that you can have, and you can easily lose stuff in it. But it looks like using knowledge alerts and the collections and the groups within Guru would make it a lot easier to not lose those things that get lost in the like 27 posts a day on discourse.
Yeah, I think that speaks to what Julie was talking about, just setting some guidelines around like what you want your knowledge alerts to look like to make sure that like it's very pointed in nature. That's such a great observation.
Yeah, just like something we're really thinking through is like when you as a knowledge consumer, this is a term we use at Guru, when a knowledge consumer receives a knowledge alert, they know like sort of the parameters of what's going to be in that message. And so, yeah, I'd really urge people before they start just like using knowledge alerts and having it become another sort of ping that folks think through that. And also I want to say I'm more than happy to chat with anyone offline about our use of that and like what would be applicable to their business.
Yeah, I think what we find beneficial at FabFitFun too is since a lot of our team doesn't have Slack, having all of that workflow in Guru and getting information directly to our agents who are outsourced, it's been super beneficial to just get them information quickly and efficiently rather than cascading through a bunch of different channels or people. So that's what we found really successful with Guru as well.
That's awesome. We might have time for one more question if there's anything on anyone's mind.
Hey guys, this is Kelly from Saros. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, sorry you can't see me. I'm actually in the car listening. So I think the only thing, and like this isn't really a question, is that before you're even able to like start on knowledge alerts, is that you have to make sure that people are actually putting the information into Guru first and not somewhere else. I think that's the reason why a lot of our pings end up just being like a Slack ping versus a knowledge alert. But after seeing this, I'm really excited, one, about that newsletter, and two, about like seeing how other people are using multiple knowledge alerts rather than just sending it in a Slack channel. And I'm excited to take that back to my team and be like, we can make this work. That's not to say we haven't been trying to make it work. It's just, you know, my top priority has been making sure that people are putting stuff in cards first. And then the next step is to be able to, you know, send that out as a knowledge alert rather than just, you know, posting the card into a Slack channel. So this was really helpful. I really enjoyed this.
Cool. Oh, Kelly, thanks. That's awesome. And yeah, getting engagement up in Guru and making sure people are using it. Perhaps that was something that I took for granted when we started this. Like, you got to have the knowledge in there and people got to be using it, right? So you're totally right about that, Kelly. And I don't think there could have been like a better segue into how we want to kind of wrap up the session here, because next week on June 24th, Kelly, who just asked that question from Saros, is going to be at our Guru the Gathering event and sharing some of her Guru experiences. And so we're really excited for that. Everyone, please look out for a follow-up email early next week that'll have the slide deck, the recording, that API resource, and I'm going to look into the newsletter situation, see if we can get that out there in the world. And again, huge thanks to Julia and to Liz from FabFitFun. Thank you so much for sharing your example, Liz. It means the world to us. And thanks to everyone for being here, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you for having me. Bye.